to do it actually at all. So if we do the count, let me tell you, if we do the countdown, we should do the countdown from when we go live, which is we haven't gone live yet. Okay, hold on. I hit that button too fast.
We are so live. You just
sorry. Hold on. I'm getting it right. I gotta fix it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, hold on. Now we can go live. There we go. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm so excited you're all here with us tonight.
It's Tuesday.
Hi, Jet.
Hello. I'm currently in Colorado in a nice fancy condo.
You said fancy.
Oh, in a condo in Colorado.
What time is it over there, Jet?
What's it? 8:30, right? Yeah, 8:31.
Oh, is it past your bedtime?
No.
It's past your dad's bedtime. Nap time.
Yeah.
How was your day, Jet?
Good. You went to this place where you could go up the mountain with a gondola.
Is it gondola or is it gondola? I think that's a big issue.
We have gondola sandwiches over here in my neck of the woods. They're the greatest sandwiches ever.
What is it made of? Okay, tell me just a minute. Go ahead,
Okay,
Jet.
go, Jet. All right.
So there's only 3 stops. Dad wanted to still go higher, or like 3 or 4 stops. He still wanted to go higher.
Yeah.
He almost went hiking, but Lana said she wanted to go back.
Come on, Balana.
I mean, you're out in nature.
Nishita, come on. You're only there for it's vacation time.
No, I did not go to the Royal Gorge. We might do that later. Who knows? But we're in Breckenridge, I think.
Wait, where?
Breckenridge or something.
Dun dun dun.
Have y'all looked into the UFO stuff, Jet?
No. Mom wanted to do it today, but Dad said we should do it when we start leaving on Friday.
Oh, that's why those will see, and then you'll never do it.
Yeah, or you will, but then you'll leave on Saturday and be like, "Why? Wait, I thought this was Friday."
We'll take like 8 naps on Friday, probably.
Probably.
You're right.
What's up, David?
So,
thanks for coming.
Hi, David.
Yes, Tim.
Lana, James, and Dad went on this little roller coaster.
Okay.
You know those slides, like a little cart that speed up and slow down. They actually got a lot of footage of it.
Ooh.
And you didn't go?
No.
Why not? But you
can't sign a waiver.
Oh, you didn't want to sign the waiver? I know how that is. We don't like to sign those pesky waivers. Yeah. We don't need no stinking waivers.
Yeah, who needs those? Who needs those?
B, how was your day?
My day was good, guys. It was so much better than Monday. Today we had a successful day. Our internet connection was working perfectly on site, and I got the kids Krispy Kreme donuts, and I had my coffee. And yeah, I can't complain. It was a good day, and I went on my 4-mile walk today. So it was a good day today.
That is nice.
What was the weather like
over there?
Weather was okay. I will say from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 8 o'clock, it's in the 90s and it's super humid, but then it starts to cool down. So around 8:30 is the perfect time to go walking around because the sun is still nice and pretty, and the sun doesn't go down here till around 9:30. So it's nice. Yeah.
That's good.
Over here it's 68.
We heard Jay. Well, you don't need AC over there.
Right.
We're not there.
Because just burning from what I've heard from my dad.
Yes. We have to be good on this earth. Because it is so hot.
So what will happen is a rain cloud will pass over, and then it will stop, and then another rain cloud will pass over. Just repeat that 4 times today.
Does it rain each time the rain cloud passes over?
Yep. At one point there was hail. I mean, it wasn't bad hail.
So was that a rain cloud or a hell cloud?
It's a hella cloud.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Sandy, how was your day?
Okay, so my day was really good. Wait till you watch the video. That's what, Carrie. Wait till you. That's why I asked, because I say gondola, but some people say gondola.
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 Yeah,
I
Dad
thought
says
was a little
gondola.
swan.
It's a what?
No? I thought the gondola was the little swan that you put, like you pedal, on the lake.
Pedal to the metal.
I don't know.
Yeah. Huh. We shall
Moving
find out.
Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Anyway, so yeah, I had a great day. I can see your shadow.
Assistant. You're fired, assistant.
That was a nice manly shadow, Eric.
Right. Anyway, Eric made an awesome pot roast.
Ooh.
So good. Of course, it's 111. And I was like, man, I want some caldo de res. Beef stew. Beef stew, for those that don't know what caldo de res is. Anyway, so then we went to the Parade of Homes. That started yesterday or today. So we got to see some awesome homes. And there's one like opening up very close to us. And tomorrow we're going to go to the big fancy smanchy ones that are like in the million.
Is that your house? You're looking for you're scouting your house? Your future house?
Pretty much. And then, so we went for a swim, and then all these clouds and dust kind of started blowing. I'm like, and then it started raining.
Mm-hmm. Chocolate?
I wish.
Chocolate feet?
Yeah, right. It started, oh my. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay.
Look at the door.
Oh, that's peculiar. Well, I guess while she does that, maybe I'll show the field report.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't know if you needed more time. Go ahead.
No, we're good. And so anyway, it kind of started raining, so we got out really quickly. But
yeah.
So great day. Great
cool.
day.
Yeah.
Are we going to do the?
We can totally do the video. Let's do the video.
Your day or the video?
My day and the video. Both. Okay. I'll talk over the video, not really. I'll cue it up and then I'll tell you guys. I'm excited about a couple things. So my day, just for those who knew, I had a pretty less stressful day somewhat. So I wasn't on pins and needles all day like I was yesterday.
I'm glad, Jamie.
So yeah, I was too. I was like, it was more like a heartbeat. You know how you see the heartbeat monitor going up and down? It was more like that. So I was having moments of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then it was like, okay, calm down. And then, oh my gosh, I'm getting anxiety going down. So anyhow, but I was excited because I found out that my Blackstone is coming a day early.
No.
I was like, no way. So it's coming tomorrow. So I'm really excited. I will try to do an unboxing video as Joe suggested and get that out there so we can all live in the hype of it. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm really excited about a shirt. I got a new shirt that I ordered, and it's here. It got here today, but I'm not going to open it. I'm waiting till Thursday to open it so that our guest coming on Thursday, he actually will know. I hope he'll know a little bit about it. But if not, it'll be something I'll share with y'all and why. It's really cool. Anyway, so I'm really excited to share that. All right, let's watch
the video. Give us a video.
We're okay. Well, tell us what you really want to do.
Good morning, social distancing show. This is the field reporter, Joe Baker, reporting, and this is our first full morning here at Breckenridge, Colorado. So we are already dressed and ready to go.
Gel is on fleek,
already dressed. It's probably around 10 o'clock now. So I will report back soon and let you know what's going on.
Yeah, it was actually the second person to get up. Like that is pretty much last.
Man, that bacon looks good. I ain't gonna lie, that bacon looks real good. Why do you
checking in and we are about to go on the gondola to the top of the mountain. Gondola. Yes, gondola. Face mask required.
That is awesome. Oh, that's what he meant.
Oh,
that looks awesome.
Good. No joke. Joe, make the whole video.
All right, so as you can see, we had a pretty eventful day. So guess what time it is?
What?
That's right. It's
Nap
nap time.
time.
And back to you guys in the studio. Have a good night.
That guy's one clown. I'll tell you what, though. Even when on vacation, he has to up his video skill,
I know
doesn't he?
he has more time, so he upped the
Go back to your
ante.
nap. Go back to your nap.
Go.
Jet's got to go. Thanks for everything.
Bye.
Love you, Jet. Bye. Love that kid.
I know. He was like, I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You might have to.
He was like, I don't gotta go, but my dad said I gotta go.
Right.
That was really cute. That was really cute. I like
Harry
that.
asked a good question. I say
Where's she?
pergola.
I
I don't say pergola.
Pergola?
I say pergola. Do y'all say pergola?
I say pergola.
Pergola.
Like percolate, except pergola.
Right. Not percolating.
Anita was like, rain, when? What was this, Sandy?
Rain, seriously, maybe like 30 minutes ago. 35.
Oh, wow. My chair keeps falling.
Gotta throw that chair.
If I'm up here later, I'm gonna be like, I'm done. I'm not
It's the Tim Harlow curse.
Tim, I need your help. Tim, you're my only hope.
Tim, we need you to build him a new one.
Yeah. Yes, Joe. I'm glad I had one too. In English or Spanish? Galo de es.
No,
Maybe.
Carrie was asking about how I said it. I said, how do you want to know English or
Okay.
Spanish? I don't know how to say pergola in Spanish anyway, so.
Oh, there you go. Pergola. Pergola?
I'll say pergola.
That's what you can rename Lubbock to. Pergola, Texas.
Here we go again. We open
So, Gondola, Texas.
Gondola, Texas. It works. I like that. So anyhow, I think we'll change this up a little bit. So B.
Next segment.
Who do we have coming on the show?
We have a very special friend of mine that will be joining us today. We go back all the way since 2012. We are actually sorority sisters. And we met in undergrad back in San Antonio, Texas. And the funny part is she went to law school in Lubbock, Texas, and I moved back to Lubbock, Texas the same year she started law school. So we've been friends ever since. And yes, I'm excited to have her here on the show. And she's a lawyer, guys. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she does in her story.
Awesome. Well, then without further ado, let's welcome Miss Amanda to the show.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Miss Amanda. Oh, I'll just say Amanda, sorry.
Miss Amanda, Miss Carter.
You call me Miss Carter. That's what the judges call me, though. So
Oh.
when I hear Miss Carter, I'm like, oh, am I in court? Like,
You're like, yes, Your Honor?
yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. I'm very glad that you came to hang out with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Absolutely.
So glad. And the funny thing is, Amanda and I, we're so bad at staying in contact. But it's one of those friendships that, if you ever need someone to keep it real with you, I just call Amanda and she tells me, B, she's very upfront with me. And she's like, X, Y, and Z. She is my girl that just keeps me right there in line.
Awesome.
And well, it goes both ways for sure. But me and B, we try to keep in contact at least once a month. We've gotten better.
It's hard, right? It's hard to keep up with people.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. So Amanda, here's how I think about it is I'm terrible at like having those deliberate long conversations or whatever. So I made a decision some years ago to be like, you know what? I'm gonna drop trying to reach out to people during that time. I'm gonna be a from point A to point B conversationalist. So now when I leave somewhere and before I get to point B, I purposely make phone calls to people during that time, knowing that it's going to be like 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. And then I'm like, okay, bye.
Hey, but that means that you get straight to the point. You're not beating around the bush. And they know you care because you took time out of your day to call them.
Yes.
Right.
And I love that about Jamie. That's one thing. And it's not, and he doesn't want anything. He's just going to tell you something. We're going to laugh about it. We might discuss it. And then we're going to hang up because he's got to go.
Yeah. I try. So, yep.
Nice. Well, Miss Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your story. How did you decide you wanted to be a lawyer?
Oh man, that is a loaded question. Well, I have always enjoyed writing and reading. That's always been kind of my strong suit and what I enjoy. And I originally, back in middle school, wanted to be an author. But then I
Really?
realized if I'm not a Stephanie Meyer or a Cassandra Pope, I can't make a lot of money being a writer.
Right.
So, what else do I like to do? Well, I like to argue. And I took a criminal justice class my freshman year of high school, and I really enjoyed it and said, I want to go to law school. So ever since then, I have been on that path. I'm not a criminal attorney, so please don't call me if you're in jail. I can't help you. But I know people, and so, and I know some very good criminal attorneys, but that's kind of how I got started on the path to law school, and it's just been that way ever since.
I'm going to make sure when we do the replay of this, I'm going to cut that part out and send that to my daughter, because I think you described my daughter very well, and maybe she has a future in law school too.
You know, there are all kinds of people in law school. I have met people that have no background in reading and writing that have hardcore, science degrees that went to law school. And so anybody can go to law school. You just have to want it bad enough and be willing to essentially suffer through 3 years of torture to get to the good part.
So when you said all that, it really encouraged me to do it. But then I'm like, wait a minute.
We told you I keep it real.
Yeah.
Yes. And Miss Amanda, so that brings us to, what kind of law do you practice?
Okay, well, I practice in 4 main areas of law. There's lots of different types of law, but primarily what I practice in is family law, which is your divorces, your custody cases, child support, things like that, and CPS defense. I represent children that have been appointed to me to represent them in their CPS case, all different ages, and I also represent parents privately that have been entangled in the CPS process, and we make sure that we hold CPS to their burdens that they have to meet in order to remove children from the home, and what we do from there. And so that's primarily what I do, but what has really ramped up in the last 6 months or so is my personal favorite, my appeals practice, which is helping people that have won at trial and they want to keep it that way, and someone is trying to take away their win, or the opposite, they lost at trial, and we want to tell the trial court, hey, trial court, you're wrong. Fix it.
Wow. You can do that.
You can do that, yes. And for different areas of Texas, there's different courts of appeals. So we have 14 courts of appeals in Texas, 2 in Houston, because Houston is such a large geographic area. And we have, for the Lubbock area, which is where I practice, our main court of appeals is the Amarillo Court of Appeals. But I've also practiced in the Eastland Court of Appeals, which is down in Midland.
So does that mean you have to travel to those different areas, Amarillo, Lubbock, Midland?
You can, absolutely. Now, most of what we do is what we call by submission. So we write what is essentially a really long letter to the Court of Appeals explaining why, for example, if I'm defending somebody's win, I'll say, Court of Appeals, the trial court got it right here. Don't touch it, leave it alone. And if the court requests, or if I request it, they can call me to Amarillo and make me argue my letter in person.
And that's so when you say argue, it's like basically they want to grill you on that, on your appeal, and then, so you gotta like defend it. You got to defend your stance on your appeal.
Yes, so there is a panel of justices that you get when you go to the Court of Appeals. It's usually 3 of them. Sometimes it's more, but usually it's 3. And so you will be arguing your points, and they will stop you in the middle of your argument and ask you a question. And you have to pivot and answer their question and then return to your argument and keep going. And you're
so this isn't like, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
and we're on a timer. So they have these big digital clocks everywhere.
Oh, wow.
No pressure.
So it's like a game show. You got only X amount of time to speak. So, okay. So then you have, so someone goes through the whole court process, whatever the decision was in that area. Then they come around. There's a point where they want to either keep a hold on to the decision that was made from the court, or they want to challenge that decision.
Right.
And that's the appeal.
Right.
And then you write this really long letter to defend why either you're going to keep that decision or you want to fight it.
Yep.
And then one path is you going to these justices, a panel of justices, and defending your argument again, or your case, or however way you want to say that. But it's not like a traditional court where the lawyer, like what we see on TV, or what I see on TV.
Right. It's very different than what you see on TV.
Okay.
And that's what I like about it. It's very specific and very narrow. What you see on TV is the trial court part, where you're calling witnesses and you're making objections and you're doing, what a lot of people consider the flashy, fun stuff.
The tango.
My favorite part.
I actually don't enjoy all of those moving parts all the time. And so I like that I'm kind of forced into this narrow argument. And I think it takes a special set of skills to be able to pause in the middle of your argument, answer somebody's question, no matter how off the wall it is. Because a lot of times the justices will say, well, Ms. Carter, let's say, for example, that XYZ happened instead. Then what would you say?
Well, Carrie's here. She says, you mean you don't yell out, you can't handle the truth?
Of course, we are able to do that, where the judges are very friendly and they would certainly get the joke.
Oh, are you serious?
That would for sure be off the record.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, when you're saying, they interrupt you in the middle of a sentence. So like for me, when someone interrupts me and I'm telling a story, I'm like, what were we talking about? And now I was saying something and then I forget and I'm like, we'll talk back about that later. So I would not be a good attorney, I'm gathering.
Well, what helps us, so we practice these arguments. We do fake court of appeals arguments, essentially. So
a mock appeal.
Yes,
mock trials.
I love mock stuff. I love pretending like that kind of stuff.
And it's fun, right? I like pretending to be the justices because I like to be really obnoxious. I'll ask a really ridiculous question and you have to answer it. You have to come up with an answer. And so me and my boss, we actually went to Amarillo in March before the coronavirus broke out really intensely. And Bee's nodding her head because I told her about this, and I actually sent her a copy of her brief so she could read it because it is public record. And so I don't know if she took the time to read all 150 pages. I highly doubt that.
Whoa.
But I didn't understand a single word.
You read 2 pages.
I made it to the second page, Amanda.
We broke that brief down into bullet points, into what we wanted to say in our argument. And me and him practiced that pretty much the entire drive all the way up to Amarillo. And we got there, and it just goes so fast. It is such a blur when you're doing it. We practiced that in law school, but it's just, you can't totally prepare you for the real thing.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And so to answer your question, it's not that hard to get back on track because you've written it and you've practiced it so many times. You could do it in your sleep.
That's so cool because, Amanda, I am in Toastmasters and I have to give out speeches all the time. And I do something similar where I am practicing and I'm doing, I'm giving it to the wall, but acting like it's an audience, or I'm giving it to my family and I am practicing. And you're right, because there are points where there are some speeches that I do that are purposefully built for people to ask questions during the middle of it. And I've got to, like you said, not pivot or, stop what I'm saying and be like, yes. And then we'll go through the process and it's like, okay, yeah, answer that whole, path and then be like, got to come back. And so I have to forcibly remember these are the points I was talking about. And yes. So, I probably not as intense as yours because I'm not defending people or fighting for people. It's just my little speech, but yeah.
I think what's helpful to remember is that all the justices were lawyers at one time before they became justices. And so they know what it's like to be on the other side of the bench. And they know what it's like to get a little bit of that stage fright, a little bit of the nerves going. And really your adrenaline kicks in, truthfully. And it's like I said, it's mostly just a blur when you're actually doing it. And this one, I was just watching my boss do it. But you know, the next one, it might be me if they end up calling us to argue. And so we hope that is not necessary because the goal is always to make our brief, our letter crystal clear enough that, you know, having us clarify those arguments in person isn't necessary. But, you know, in the event that it is, and that case was particularly complicated and the argument was sort of convoluted from the other side. But it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
I love hearing you say that it's a lot of fun because my wife talks about her job like that. Like she loves what she does, and she's like, it's great, it's fun. Like, and I'm like, how is it fun hearing people who are having really difficult times in their life? And she's like, not fun like riding a roller coaster, fun like I enjoy my job. And I'm like, okay, I just wanted to know.
For me, what I would like would be like the divorce cases because those are juicy.
You would, wouldn't you, Sandy? You sure
Let me tell you about that.
Yes.
Ooh, want to know a good story, Amanda?
So divorces, everybody comes to you and says it'll be a simple divorce. That's the buzzword for no, it ain't.
Right.
And they're dramatic, and there's a lot of emotion behind a divorce because you have to remember, you know, someone is grieving the loss of a relationship, essentially.
Right.
And a family unit. And that has been a challenge, being, you know, a relatively new attorney, to adjust to being part lawyer, part therapist. I have a psychology degree from my undergrad, and that did not prepare me to deal with people who are truly bitter towards their spouse and people who weaponize their children.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh,
that's always the part I think I find the most frustrating as the attorney. I'm like, if y'all would just reach an agreement, this would be over.
Right.
You keep telling me you want this to be over, but you want to keep fighting it. So
you're like, I want her to hurt.
Yeah.
I want Sandy to hurt.
They will say, I want to make her pay.
Oh my gosh, that is terrible.
Worth. And then they get mad when somebody drags the kids into it. And I'm like, you know, you had to see that coming.
Right.
Okay,
That's
so
so
let me
terrible.
rephrase my stance. I like the fun ones, like when it's people like cheating on each other and there's no kid involved.
Okay.
I also find those to be more interesting because I think the best part of my job for divorces is being able to subpoena police records and watch police videos and the 911 calls. That's the part that I always think is super
You
fun.
know what, Amanda? You're right. Okay, I'll share a little bit like that. So there are times, and I work in IT. I'll preface it. I work in IT, and I've been in IT for 18 years. Okay, so there are times where people are like, I need this video decoded, you know. And so in the IT world, that means something. So I'm like, okay, I'll come in here. I'll match the right the file type with the right program that can play that type of file, right? And then we get it, and I have to watch these videos because I need to make sure that it plays all the way through for our client. And I'll be like, what did I just see? What the heck what in the world? And so I have to take the HIPAA privacy things, and I have to sign my papers for that.
Right.
But I am like, what in the world?
Yes,
Like,
that happens.
and some of them are crazy. I've never seen anything like grotesque, but the stuff I've seen, I'm like, he just threw his truck in a freaking the gas station. Why did he do that? And it's fire everywhere. What?
Yes, we see a lot of crazy stuff, but also what's interesting is that we'll have a client that will say, oh yeah, you need to subpoena those records, and then we'll pull it and it'll be like a 911 call with like no police show up, and you're like, that wasn't that big of a deal.
Right. It's proof that I dialed, Amanda.
Yes, that's all sometimes that's all it's about. We in the legal world love the paper trail. And so sometimes it's about creating that paper trail for sure.
Carrie has a question for you, Amanda.
Okay.
She says, Amanda, do you like any of the law shows on TV? I've heard several medical professionals say they don't care for some medically heavy shows. I'm sure that's what she said. If I had the brains to be a lawyer, I want to be Olivia Pope. Ha ha.
So let me clarify that Olivia Pope is a politician. That happens to be a lawyer. Most lawyers are not politicians. Some of us are, but most of us are not. The ones that are usually end up being judges. So, I think as far as the legal shows go, I think I actually like Law and Order, even though it's way simpler than it actually is in real life.
Right.
I do actually use Law and Order to practice my objections.
What? How?
I do. I use them to practice my objections. So if I'm watching the legal half of Law and Order, and they're in the courtroom and they have a witness on the stand, I will sit there and look at my objection sheet and see if the question they asked is objectionable. And sometimes I'm right. Sometimes they'll let the objection slide, whereas in real life that would never happen. But it's good practice, and it's a fun way to kind of relax, but also get some practice in as well. So.
Okay, so when you throw in an objection, are you throwing that in because you don't want your client asked that question, or because it's not a valid question? Why is the objection thrown in?
So it's not so much about the client answering the question. It's about keeping whatever evidence they're looking for out of the record. So you can think of it as I like sports, so I like to think of it as a fumble. I'm trying to keep the ball away from the other side. And so if, let's say my client's on the stand and the other attorney asks a question that's objectionable, sometimes it's true that I don't want my client to answer, but usually what it's more about is that's a bad question and I want to make the other side work for their evidence. I don't want to just hand it to them. So when you ask questions, you better have, the right form of the question. And it's real nuanced like that. It's all about how the question is asked. It's not so much about the answer.
So it might be like, so you gave him the sheet of paper. I object. What kind of paper was it? Oh, my God. You gave him the red sheet of paper. I object. How large was it?
And it's so awkward for the witness because they're always like, I don't know what to do. Somebody objected. I've seen this on TV. I don't know. Even though it's awkward, you have to stop talking.
I can see Sandy doing. Sandy, you would be talking as a witness, and then something would happen. You'd be like, I object.
Probably right.
The coolest objection I ever have gotten so far was badgering a witness. I didn't think people really made that objection in real life, so I was quite proud of myself for drawing that objection.
Good for you.
I didn't care that the judge sustained it. I was like, whatever, that was cool.
Did you pull out your objection bingo card and be like, yes?
I did on my computer. I'm like, yeah, I did it.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, explain so how do you feel that he was badgering? Will you explain that to me?
So
Carrie says, see, brain power. I thought Olivia was a powerful lawyer.
They thought that I was badgering the witness. So I was the one asking questions.
You were badgering.
I kept asking the same type of question because I wanted her to answer me in a certain way. And she was being kind of evasive. So I kept having to object to her being non-responsive because she wouldn't answer my question directly. She was kind of dancing around the question.
Oh, okay.
And so I kept asking the same thing. And finally, the other side was just like, Judge, she's badgering the witness. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever.
Okay, I did it.
Got me.
We all know what she's getting at.
Wow. Carrie's asking here again. She's saying, have you ever fired a client?
Ooh, that's a good one, Carrie.
Actually, not fired a client yet. Surprisingly, I've come close a few times. And usually when we're firing a client, it's because they're not communicating with us in order for us to help them. It's sort of a help us help you kind of situation.
Yeah.
Or it's they haven't paid. So we can drop them for non-payment. And after a certain amount of time, and because, you know, it is a business at some point. And we have to keep the lights on. We've got to keep everybody fed and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So most of the time when we fire clients, it's usually for lack of communication or non-payment. We can also fire clients if we basically fundamentally disagree with their position and we feel like we cannot ethically go forward
Yeah.
position, or if they're asking us to do something unethical and we've explained to them that we can't do that and they still want us to do it, then we can fire them for that too.
So funny that you ask about the firing, Carrie. We had a client be fired, and we always have just kind of wondered why he was fired, because this particular attorney was what we call an ambulance chaser. And so we thought he had a case, but then this guy, who I swear goes after everybody, fired him. And we thought, what went on there? Are firings public record?
No, because that's part of our like contractual relationship with the client. And usually in our fee and representation agreement that the client signs at the beginning of the case, it'll say kind of what circumstances I can fire them under, but likewise, they can also fire me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you probably won't ever find out why. I mean, attorneys talk. We won't say names directly, but we talk to each other about, you know, this person over here has been through 4 attorneys. You might want to steer clear of that one. So, you know, it just, you won't probably find out why, but you could probably deduce why. But
there's so many things that cross my mind.
It's usually for something not very exciting.
Right.
So how many appeals do you have under your belt right now?
So I have completed, we've completed 2 appeals. That second one, we're still waiting on a ruling. The Court of Appeals is taking their sweet time.
And that's what I was going to ask.
Much to our dismay. And then we have 3 going right now actively that we are wrapping up or getting started. So we are busy, and that's the most appeals the firm as a whole has ever handled. And we're very happy to have that expansion and that experience. And I'm kind of the weirdo in the firm that enjoys that particular activity. So they usually hand them off to me because they're pretty intensive writing, and it's kind of a time suck to do appeals. So you have to be kind of committed to doing a long-term project. You have 30 days to turn in your brief, which sounds like a lot of time, but it's actually not when you have to go through and put citations. Y'all probably remember that from like your science projects. And your projects, it's no different. Here we have to cite everything. And so it takes forever to go through and make sure you're happy with the way you wrote it and then put all your citations in. And it's a very specific form.
That's what the paras are for, right? The paralegals are for that, right?
Sometimes. And my paralegal is excellent. Emily rocks it all the time. And you do turn over a lot of writing activities to her to help her grow as a writer. And then we sort of review it and help her kind of see where she can improve and see where she did well. So we will turn that over, but ultimately the responsibility lies on my shoulders to make sure that it's in the end correct.
Right. So that's got to be weird because, when I think about, like, is an appeals a long process then? Does it take a while?
It can take a very long time. So there's all kinds of deadlines I won't bore y'all with, but the main ones that are important are that each side has 30 days to complete their brief. But guess what? The standard practice is that you give extensions to the other side. So really you'll end up doing 60 days on each side. And then the Court of Appeals doesn't have a deadline to rule. So,
wow.
So you can get everything ready, perfect timing for you, but then they can take as long as they want to address it or whatever.
Now, it's not in their best interest to take forever long because, they have a heavy docket. So, of course, they want to move things along. But, yeah, we turned in a brief we had that argument in March, and we are still waiting on a ruling.
In March, and now we're in July.
We are in July. And my boss has been asking me, because we have a Texas Lawyers Facebook page that is a private group, and you have to show your bar card to prove that you're an
Sandy, go get on that. Hurry.
And then there's like different subgroups. So there's a whole group for just appellate attorneys. And I went on there because it's a good place for mentorship too.
Yeah.
How you handled this situation? And I asked, I said, what has been your experience in this court? And they said anywhere from like a month to like years.
Oh, wow.
What? Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh,
Wow,
that is crazy.
So
I know. You imagine if they called me back and 2 years later, and I'm like, I don't remember what I wrote.
Well, no, that's exactly right. So what happened was we wrote the brief and we finished it in March of 2019. But then we had oral arguments in March of 2020.
Oh wow, it's been a whole year.
And so I had to go back, like you said. I'm like, I don't remember what I wrote. So,
what happens if you're like not the attorney there anymore? Like if you're not, staffed at that practice?
Someone will take over.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of times, so we're fortunate as a firm that because I do in-house appeals, I get to go talk to my boss who probably handled the trial and say, hey, tell me what happened. But a lot of appellate attorneys work in completely different firms. And so all they have is the paperwork to show what was said, like what the court reporter wrote down, and then everything that was filed, and that's all they have to go on to build their appeals. So I'm fortunate that I can reach out to trial counsel and say, please tell me what happened.
Yeah.
And what you think should have happened. But, as we continue to grow our appellate practice, we hope to get some outside appeals that are cases that are outside of our firm that want to come in and have appeals done. That's what our hope is. And so we'll see.
Yeah. Carrie's got another question for you here. She says, how do you feel about the I spilled hot coffee on myself and now I'm going to go after the coffee maker type clients? I would have a hard time not keeping my jaw off the floor, laughing with tear emoji. Have you ever had to represent a case like this?
So the only other area that I practice in that I haven't already mentioned is guardianships, and I'm currently assisting the lead attorney on those cases. So I'm not the lead attorney handling those at the moment. I don't handle personal injury. That is my boss. He handles personal injury because he loves trial. He loves it. And so we do handle personal injury cases, and I have worked on parts of personal injury cases, but I myself have not represented a client from start to finish in a personal injury case.
What would that translate to for the type of law that you do enjoy practicing? What does this translate to in that area? Or is it translatable?
If, for example, my boss took that case to trial and they succeeded and they got to sue, I don't know, Keurig. And we have not sued Keurig, by the way, so don't.
Okay. Don't start.
That's just an example. And they win, and now the other side's still really upset, and they think it's wrong, and so they appeal it. Now it's my job. Now it comes into my hands to say, yep, the trial court did this right, they did this right. It's very procedural, checking the boxes. It's not usually so much about the facts of what happened as it is about, did all the procedural boxes get checked from A to Z?
Okay. So then if a ambulance chaser, there's not a very high chance that an ambulance chaser is going to go to an appeals court. Maybe.
It could happen, but also you have to remember, like, the considerations is the money, because it's a higher cost to do appeals. We charge more for those because it's a higher level skill set. And it's also, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of an indefinite amount of time. So if the money that you got in the personal injury case is caught up in an appeal, guess what? You don't have that money in your pocket. It's just in the registry of the court. So you have to just you got to kind of weigh your options and decide what's more important, winning and being right, or the money.
Right.
Oh.
Don't go buy that Mustang quite yet. Hold up. Hold up.
Right.
Abigail's asking a question here too. What is the best and worst part of being a lawyer?
And I just want to say this, that's our sorority sister. The best part of being a lawyer, I think, is being able to help people that genuinely need help. I know that's such a cliche answer, right? But I think when I get a client that is genuinely grateful for my assistance, whether that be in a CPS case, in a divorce case, in an appeal even, which we don't deal with the client as much directly because we're not putting them on the stand, we're not prepping them for trial. It's just so rewarding. I've sat in the courtroom when we've gotten jury verdicts, and the client will just cry because they're so happy with the results. And you just can't beat that.
Yeah.
The worst part of being a lawyer is sort of the same thing, right? So is that when you have a client and you know you did your best, you know you did everything procedurally correct, and you put on all the evidence that you have, and then you left everything in the courtroom and you still didn't get the win. That is the toughest part, especially because lawyers in and of themselves tend to be kind of hard on themselves, just personality-wise, are naturally sort of type A and what more can I do type of people.
Yeah.
Or if the client is unreasonably upset with you and you're doing everything you can to help them be successful, and they're still chewing you out because they're not handling their emotional situation very well. I have a client that frequently contacts me pretty much daily.
Really?
And I'm like, I can't do work for you if you don't let me do my work for you.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's like the best. That's like, so like when I bake and then the lady calls me every day to make sure that the cake's doing good and the decorations look right. I'm like, you know what? Here's your money back, actually, because I'm sorry. You can call somewhere else. Jorge down the road.
Right.
I answer your questions every day. Jaime, I'm not answering them every day.
Jaime's done.
Bye. I don't think it's relatable, but
That's sort of kind of.
Oh goodness. And then
go ahead, B. Sorry.
I have a question for you, Miss Carter.
Oh, go for it.
You've been practicing law. It's been 5 years now. Graduated in 2015 or 2016?
I graduated in 2018. I went to law school in 2015.
Okay,
we graduated in 2015, B. Come on.
It's been a long day, okay?
It has been a long day. So I've been licensed since November of 2018. So I've been practicing law for almost 2 years. I'm getting close to my 2-year mark.
Nice. And where do you see yourself practicing law in a couple of years? Do you still see doing the same appeal cases? Where are you at? What do you think?
That is a fantastic question.
Yeah, it is.
No, really, it really is. I've given that a lot of thought, and my hope is, of course, to do appeals as often as possible. But even appeals frustrate me sometimes. I told my boss the other day we had this really frustrating appeal. I just didn't love the way it came out. I just wasn't super happy with the product, and I turned to him and I go, I want to go back to family law. And he was just laughing at me. So it comes in waves, you know, the areas that you feel like practicing in. But that's what's great about having a law degree is I can practice anything I want.
Wow.
And so I don't have to pin myself down to just one area. I could do anything.
So do you have hopes of opening your own firm eventually, or?
That is a great question. You know, I am content right now to be part of a team. Opening your own firm is certainly an added layer of stress. And being that I also use a wheelchair and I have, you know, those stressors as part of my daily life, I don't see that as something in the next 5 years, maybe a decade from now. What I'd really love to do is take the values that we have in the current firm and transfer them to a different geographic area so we can reach more people. So almost open like a satellite office would, I think, be more
your speed.
So maybe in the areas that you were talking about where the appeals or the appellate courts are, maybe, kind of thing.
Yeah. And those are all over Texas, so I can submit briefs to any appellate court in the state. I am licensed to practice in all 254 counties.
Oh wow!
In Lubbock,
in Lubbock, Texas.
That's what I was trying to say in my head, but I meant Texas. There's 254.
Most definitely Lubbock.
There's 254 counties in Texas.
Yes, there are 250 counties in Texas.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Roderick, he says, do you enjoy jury selection?
So I actually have 2 jury trials coming up in the year 2020, although I'm not terribly confident that they will go forward due to the coronavirus. So I actually have not done jury selection yet. So my boss is helping me practice for a jury trial and letting me really get in there and watch how that actually works. We certainly learn about it in law school, but just like everything, it's a lot different to learn about it than it is to actually do it.
Yeah.
My suggestion is watch a lot of Bull. That'll help.
Yeah, honestly, that's true. Yeah.
I would love that show. And then Abigail, I think she's saying it's been a long year and only a little over. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, Abigail
it has been a long year. I agree.
I was thinking there was a question in there. I'm sorry. Yes, it has been a long year, Abigail. It's been a long decade right now.
Yes, it feels like it's been a decade.
I don't know how y'all feel, but there'll be days where I'm at work sometimes, and then I look at the clock every day, and I'm like, I thought it was 4 o'clock, and it's only like 9:30. What happened?
Every day.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, why, God, why?
Just put up your Christmas tree; it'll speed everything up.
I've actually been throwing Christmas music in my Spotify playlist rotation to help me.
See, I'm not there yet. I can't.
No.
I cannot get holly jolly when it's 111 outside.
You tell him, Amanda. You tell him.
I hear you, but it's more of my state of mind right now. I need some happy, feel good emotions running right now, so those help me good. Well, I can't believe it's already so late here. Not late, but I don't know how Joe says it, but I want to ask this last question. Yes, Abigail's asking a good question here. I want to throw up before we go. It says, what are some things you as a lawyer can do to address systemic racism? Maybe doing more pro bono for those less fortunate to afford your service?
So we have the ability through the Lubbock County Young Lawyers Association and the Texas Young Lawyers Association, which is for lawyers under 35 or that have been practicing for less than 5 years, just depending on which category you fall into. Sometimes both. They give us opportunities, so like to help veterans, to help homeless communities, set up estate plans and things of that nature. So we do have an opportunity to help those populations that might not otherwise be able to afford our services. I also think it's just really important to go into any meeting with a client understanding that they're there presenting me with a problem. They need my help. And I'm not there to judge how we got there. My job is to pick up the pieces. And so I think it's easy, and it's not so much a race thing that I see in Lubbock, but it's a gender issue. Actually, I represent a lot of fathers, and so they come to me and they go, well, they're not going to let me keep my kid because I'm dad. Everybody knows that, you know, the kids go with mom. And I said, well, actually, that's not true. And so it's my job to protect the role of a father as a parent. And I do see a lot of racism in my CPS cases, unfortunately.
Really?
And that's unfortunately a side effect of just the CPS workers wanting there to be a certain standard of living and maybe not understanding the cultural differences. And so it's very important that I go in when I represent kids and when I represent parents to really dive in and figure out what is the cultural background. Why was this important to them? For example, when we have multiple generations living in one home, that doesn't mean it's dangerous. It just means it's not common.
Amanda, the way you said that, just like you got me good right there. I can't explain it to you, but that was so, like, hearing you as you say that, you know, looking at the culture is important in those scenarios. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I can tell you it's positive things, but I am just like, I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Well, I think we in the firm, we all come from different walks of life, and that's on purpose. My boss is taken very seriously setting up a firm, a group of people that can relate to almost every client on some level.
Wow.
So we really, and that's what makes you work harder, right? You have some kind of personal connection to the client.
Yes.
Even if you haven't been maybe in that exact situation, you understand, hey, that sucked when I went through it. I don't want anyone else to go through it.
Right. Abigail said, had to relate your career to what is going on right now. Don't mean to get political. I just want to know how to help.
I think, again, just being culturally aware and trying to dive into some of those cultural background questions and figuring out, is this a dangerous situation? Is this a negative situation? Or is this something that we just don't commonly see? And that lack of commonality is being projected onto this person. And how do we present that in a way that is more neutral?
It's like I'm hearing this beautiful song come out your mouth right now, Amanda. I can't tell you how, like, striking you're getting in my heart right now with the way you're talking. I'm just like,
You gave me the chills, Amanda.
I am serious. Like, I am in near tears right now because I think what you're saying is absolutely beautiful. I think you're like spot on with what you're talking about right now, and that makes me feel like hearing someone say that is enormous right now. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Carrie's here. She says, thank you for representing the fathers, Amanda. There is a huge need for people to advocate for fathers who want to be active, and the mother chooses she wants to stay angry.
I agree, Carrie. I agree. I know several fathers that are in that situation.
Absolutely. So, Amanda, we got to get going. But before we do, I'd like to give you some time to address everyone and kind of share whatever it is. It's a time in our show where we give the spotlight on our guests. And so we're going to give you time here to plug whatever it is you want to plug. Okay.
Oh, awesome. All right, guys. Well, what I wanted to plug today was that this year is the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And you can look up local organizations around wherever you are living to get involved in activities and learn more about the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we still have a long way to go as a disabled community. So please become an ally with us. We're just like you. We want equal rights and to be able to get around our communities and participate just like you do. So be sure to get involved in whatever way you can.
Excellent.
Awesome. Is there a website where we can do that, Amanda?
Well, you know, any local chapter of any disability you want to bring up usually has a local chapter Any independent living centers in your community is a good place to start. You can volunteer at those, get to know the people that live there and interact with those individuals. I think that helps expand knowledge. And like y'all said, it's a cultural thing. So just being aware of what the cultural differences are. And I think that will make us all more nice to each other.
I agree. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's some good information that some of us are not aware. Then thank you for that.
And so we also like to ask before we let our guests go. We look for topics from our guests to give us. And so with that in mind, do you have a topic that you'd like for us to cover for a future episode?
Sure. I know there are a lot of kiddos out there, my sister included, that love gaming. That is not my area, but it is my friend Kyle's area. His whole job, he's actually in a wheelchair also. I call him my body twin. And we've known each other for a long time. And he actually, his whole job is to go through different games that are out there and determine how accessible they are.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, that's his whole job.
Okay, so I know a little bit about that. Very, very little bit, but I would be, if you will get us in touch with him, we would be happy to talk with him.
Absolutely get on board. He is big into public speaking, and so he would be happy to talk. And you can follow his YouTube channel. He's got a whole YouTube channel. It's called One Hand Mostly because we both have only one hand that works.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
One Hand Mostly. You can check it out. He talks about all different kinds of video games and does Twitch and all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that, Amanda. I didn't know that about Bobby.
All right. I put that in our comments. You look for that, Sandy? Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, we forgot one thing to ask Amanda.
What?
Amanda, where do you work? Where's your firm in Lubbock?
I work here in Lubbock, Texas. We practice in Lubbock and the surrounding counties. And I work for Matthew Harris Law. So look us up, check us out. We're pretty chill. We give out swag to our clients and to people that just want it. We love being connected with our community. We volunteer. Not right now because of the coronavirus, but generally we try to volunteer at least once a quarter as a firm with some local charity. The most recent thing we did was going to the animal shelter and playing with puppies. Who doesn't love that?
Oh my gosh.
Really?
I'm so glad you said puppies. So I would do that.
Yes.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I really loved having you on here. And we put a lot of information up in the comments, everyone. So please give a check out. Amanda, we're going to let you go. I hope you have a good night. If you want to stick around in the green room and just hang out with us afterwards, feel free to, okay?
It was a pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
Amanda.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Amanda. Aww,
Guys, that was such a good
She's so
show.
awesome. You know,
Yeah.
I've met her on a couple of occasions, but I've never had a long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never actually talked to her for this amount of time. So that was awesome. She is brilliant.
I know, right?
She was our drama queen, everything for sorority. That was Amanda. She kept us in line.
She the only question I have left over was I wanted to learn all about like the appellate courts and stuff. Like when she said there was like 3 here and 2 in Austin or Houston or something like that, I was like, oh.
2 in Houston, 1 in Amarillo, and 1 in Midland.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just confused about that. Like I just want to know more about that. So if I can't ask her and she can answer me, I might just end up doing some research on that and find a video, read some article on it, because I don't know what appellate courts are. But
easier if we shoot her a message.
Oh, and then she can answer us on Facebook, and then we can put it up for everyone.
Yes.
So, okay, awesome. Good idea. Good. All right, everyone. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We hope you had a good time. I hope you loved everything. We love you guys for being here and hanging out with us. Tomorrow night, we have Mr. I'm sorry. Someone help me.
We have a great guest tomorrow night.
We have a great guest coming tomorrow night. I'm always bad with names, and I'm sorry about that. But I will tell you, he runs a podcast out of Austin, Texas.
Texas.
Daniel Hagedorn. I hope I pronounced that right. Daniel Hagedorn's coming tomorrow night. He runs a podcast, a parenting podcast. So if any of you are interested for asking parenting questions, or
I'm nervous.
I know, right? I feel like,
That's on me.
what have I failed on? What have I failed on?
So that's why my child is like that.
But,
I have a minute to represent me.
yeah. Check out the promo that we have for him tomorrow night because it has his podcast address in there, and his podcasts are really neat because they're all really short. They're like 10 minutes to 20 minutes max, I think. Unless he has a guest on, then they're an hour. But for the most part, they're very nice short morsels to take in. So give it a check out, or just come hang out with us tomorrow night so we can interview him together. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I know. B's the most excited, I can tell, huh?
Oh yes, because I have so many children.
Yeah, you do.
But B's got a lot of experience. She's got a lot of nieces and nephews.
I do since I was 8 years old. So
I know. That's when I knew B. That's how. Yeah. Anyway, everyone, as usual,
remember to wash your hands
for at least 20 seconds.
You filthy animals.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Carrie's at least going to get a C plus. Gosh, I'm going to get an F.
I'm going to give myself a B plus. I think I'm going to do actually pretty good. He'll be like,
gosh,
maybe. And then my kids will run down here and be like, but Dad, you remember that one time? And I'll be like, shh.
Right, shut your face. I'm going to be like, I need a drink tomorrow night.